That's who I started doing kick doors with. That was in 2000 and the end of 2011 and 2012 when crime had to be turned to because there was no more finances. And then they kind of just, went there, and then after prison rehab. So yeah, a little bit of relationships, but not really. I mean, the whole relationship is drugs, right?
Yeah.
It's drugs, Jaron, and then work, and then a person. That's typically how my life was hierarchied in structure. I started doing TikTok Live, which is my meetings in church. And I would have dinner on Sundays with my parents. And Saturdays, at nighttime, I'd go get tattooed. Every week for about 5 months, I went and got tattooed, pretty much. And every other weekend, I'd have lunch with my grandparents.
This is Rock Bottom with Ryan. No sugarcoating, no filters. The pain, the chaos, the truth. No bullshit. Just recovery.
All right, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan. I just want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Sober Strong Apparel. Sober Strong Apparel isn't just lifestyle wear, it's battle gear. Heavyweight tees, hoodies, gear for ones who draw a hard line. Clean, sober, no compromise. Sober Strong Apparel also has an impact sponsorship program. So check out SoberStrongApparel.com for amazing gear, t-shirts, hat, hoodies, banners, everything you can think of. Great style, and it's for a good cause. 15% off if you use code ROCKBOTTOM. And just remember, 10% of every purchase goes to treatment centers. That's 10% of every purchase going to treatment facilities. Great company. I love what they stand for. Great ownership, great people, and everybody supports recovery. So if you know anybody who's sober curious or in recovery, family, friends, yourself, definitely check out SoberStrongApparel.com. Use code ROCKBOTTOM for 15% off. And check out information on the Impact Sponsorship Program. Thanks a lot, y'all, for watching this episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share. Appreciate all of your support. Thank you so much. Enjoy this episode. All right, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan, here with co-host Rachel Sereni today, and we have our guest, Jaron Lyle. Jaron, how you doing?
Fabulous, man. How are you guys?
Really good. Happy to have you on today.
Yeah,
Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Every time I do something like this is a dream come true. Literally this is like the most exciting, the coolest shit I've ever been a part of every time.
That's
so
awesome.
Thank you guys so much.
Is it the same? We got to tell us, is it the same feeling as it was when you went to Hopeaholics? Because if we're that cool, then I'd feel pretty special.
It's okay. It's a let me just say this. It's a different feeling.
Okay.
Right? It's a different feeling. But I don't want to compare it to like if you're playing in a stadium with more people or not. But like scoring a touchdown is scoring a touchdown.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And there might be like at the start of the game maybe, but you know what? It's still the same to me, man. I still think this is the coolest shit ever.
I like that answer. Rachel and I aspire to have a Hopeaholics style studio one of these days. So when we do, we'll have you there too. So
we will.
Awesome. Yep. Definitely when you guys get it.
Heck yeah. So as you know, we talk a lot about recovery on here as well. And we would like to know, if you have a sober date, what is it? What was your drink or drug of choice? Where you're from? All the basics.
Yeah, so I guess sober date or free date. I like to say free. I know it's probably just semantics of the word, but for me, it vibes with how I go about my life at this point. So the last time that I used, I guess, was going to be April 26th, just past midnight. That was on 2025, excuse me, of 2025. So just past a year now,
I was going to say, we're talking to you fresh a couple weeks in.
Yeah, April 26th at about 12:30, something just past that.
Okay.
And to be real frank with you, I probably think that after that it was like 2 water shots. To be honest with you, if we want to get to the nitty, like trying to get the bare what's on the counter, squeezing 5 cottons out and stuff like that. That was the last ones that I used. I didn't go out with a bang. I went out with the disaster.
Okay. But
yeah, that's the last time. Yeah. That's the last time that I did that I partook in alcohol or drugs. Yeah.
Okay. And alcohol and what drugs were part of that?
So I did anything, man. At that time, I was shooting cocaine.
Okay.
So I started. I went to the needle. Man, I don't know, probably around 2010 when I switched over to heroin, and I'd been doing opiates pretty heavily. And at the time, for whatever reason, whether it was just that people were lying to me or not, Oxycontin had just switched. Okay. So Oxycontin was no longer OC 80s, like that you could peel off. They were called, I forget what they were, but they were generic. So they went to where you couldn't melt it down. It had like a popcorn, styrofoam packing texture to it of the ones we were getting. So we switched to this other drug called Opana. And then I switched to heroin. And then from there, once the needle just opened up, I just injected everything. So I had stayed free from opiates after 2015. And then I just did any stimulants that I mean, when I was drinking, methamphetamine or cocaine.
Okay. So there are a few transitions in there. Okay. All right.
So, but I went to treatment in 2010. I went to treatment in 2010 for heroin, detoxed off of that. I went back to treatment in 2015 because I had relapsed on heroin, but I'd gotten on methadone. So I had to detox from methadone in 2015, but I couldn't stop shooting cocaine. So I also went for that. And then in 2019, I went back to treatment for methamphetamine and cocaine. And then I probably should have gone another 4 times. I could have easily gone another 4 times since 2019. I just didn't choose that route.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna back it up real quick. Like I'm gonna take it down to childhood. So tell us where you're from and tell us what your upbringing was like.
I'm from Arlington, Texas, and my upbringing was fabulous. It was incredible. I remember saying if I had half the marriage my parents have, I'll make the entire world jealous. My dad missed 1 sports game my entire from 6th grade through high school. My mom was cheering on the sidelines during high school football. She worked as a substitute teacher at the high school that I went to. My dad's a pastor and was in the church the whole time. He still works for a church. And I know that may not necessarily bring into norm of greatness, but I've never heard my father cuss. I've never seen my father take a full shot of alcohol. I've never seen him drink more than 3 beers in a sitting, and maybe I don't even know if I've seen him drink 2.
Wow.
And yeah, and
Your parents are good influences,
we had
it sounds like.
my dad my dad's my hero. He's an amazing man. But yeah, my childhood was good. I went to a private school, participated in church. I mean, there was nothing that was out of the ordinary other than when I was in 3rd grade, what I look at it now is I would say sexually taken advantage of by a friend, a close friend at that time of my life. And I say sexually taken advantage of because one person, he had a lot more knowledge on things as that. That's the only traumatic thing that happened, but that has nothing to do with that would be like the only blemish on my childhood record. But did I ever think this is why I'm doing drugs? No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, but I'm sure you learn later that sometimes those traumatic moments did have some kind of impact on your psyche throughout your life, and it could have resulted in a little bit of the drug use, but it's not the prime reason, of course. So
yeah, definitely not. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, not my belief. But yeah, childhood was good. Growing up was good. Life was good.
When did you finally going to private schools, having parents involved in the church and stuff? How did you kind of get in with the crowd where you started using the first time?
Well, I think the thing with it is that private school is still filled with people, you know, and it's regardless the enemy, the devil, the choices, whatever you want to say and call it, right? We're all people. So we still all struggle with things. It doesn't make us immune to different things just because we have different upbringing or a private school. I started smoking weed at 15. Of course, I went to a school that was really, really good in sports. So with really, really good in sports, you have people that are coming in from public schools. So a little bit a different dynamic than just kids that are just private school kids. And, with public school does probably lead to a little bit more exposure of things. So, my freshman year, I started smoking weed. I got caught with that. And then it was just kind of just a slow escalation upward, from weed to ecstasy to alcohol. And then that was pretty much weed, ecstasy, alcohol, hydrocodones, and Xanax was pretty much high school.
Wow.
That was pretty much the high school gist of it. And then everything harder came out after high school. But yeah, that was, still at 15 years old. 15 years old, I'm going to a club in Dallas. I got fake ID, and I'm rolling my balls off at 15. You know, and as a Saturday
Yeah.
night, staying up all Saturday night, and I'm going to church the next day as a 15-year-old kid.
Were your
You know,
parents
with like
noticing your behavior changes and all that?
no,
Oh, no?
no, and I don't think
Wow.
because like it's one of those things that if you don't see it, like you don't know it. And you think like maybe they're just tired. And people don't want to think the worst. They want to think the best, especially when they don't want to be accusational. They want to trust. And that's my dad always leaned on that side. He still leans on that side. And so, you know, they just I don't know, they just hoped and just believed that we were just making right choices and we're just kids and we're staying up late or whatever it is, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think they were
Uh-huh.
naive in it. I don't think they were naive. My dad just didn't My dad had no experience in those choices ever. So how do you see something that you've never seen? You know, how do you see signs? How do you know something that you don't know about? And how do you know to research that when people you don't, you know, like, you know, so yeah, that no one really knew too much.
Okay.
And then when you started noticing that's okay. No, when you started noticing that you were using it to, you said like rolling balls, because I used to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that too.
yeah.
I did that too. And you were basically numbing. Take us on that journey of what it was like for you. Did you notice that it was numbing a certain area of your feelings for a reason?
I don't necessarily know ever. Not then. No, not then. I just like to have, for me at that time, if I could probably be really transparent, and maybe there's more psyche going into it, but I was just having fun at the time. It wasn't a social thing. It wasn't like it was just me and like three friends, me and two friends. Like that's what my drug use started with. It was like four of us. And it wasn't like a party scene. Like we would get in and do it on the weekend and we would play video games or we would play what was the freaking Dope Wars on computer where like you buy like different drugs and then the city bomb. I don't know if you guys have ever played that game on the computer, but
Mm-mm.
it's like cocaine's gonna have a bust. Cocaine's gonna have a bust. Buy now, and you buy the cocaine, then you get like an advance. Yeah, it's crazy. And so we played that on the computer all night and listened to Zombie Nation. I mean, and play NCAA football on PlayStation. Like we were just having fun at the time. If that's what it was. It wasn't really a there wasn't really anything traumatic. I mean, we were Christian kids growing up in church, you know, just I guess doing what we knew we weren't supposed to do and having a great time when we were doing it,
Yep.
I think.
Uh-huh.
At least when it first started.
How were you like
For a good long yeah, for a good long while.
how were you like maintaining like grades and like doing in sports and stuff like that? Were you able to kind of maintain a pretty good facade, like that everything was okay?
Yeah. Yeah, and sports kind of during high school kept me my partying really stuck to weekends, right? That was really what it was. So after football games, Friday night, Saturday night, and maybe occasionally smoke weed like after a football practice or something. But as far as for that consistent drug use and partying, it was always weekends. Football and sports always took precedent in my life. And then once that structure fell out after high school, that's when things started to kind of unravel. But for the most part, up until the end, the last few years of my life, I've always was able to maintain structure with drug use. Now it was pretty chaotic at times and I would lose jobs and things like that, but I've had a knack of being able to get jobs very quickly. So it was even though I lost something, it was still
Wasn't leading to
everything was
homelessness and
structured. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And well,
severe.
I should have been homeless many times, but again, my parents have saved me multiple times and have helped me out when I should have been homeless. So,
Okay.
yeah. So,
And then you said when you got out of high school without the structure, that's when you started noticing it got a little worse for you.
I think it gets a little worse. I think it gets there's more freedom per se, maybe. There's not as much possibility of you can get in trouble. You have a little more less eyes on you. You're more grown up, and you know you just start to go with the crowd of what that was. I started selling. Well, after high school, I kind of was floundering, and then I joined into Christian missionary work. I did 2 years of Christian missionary work with a group called YWAM. So I traveled all over the world, and that was really cool, and that was good. And then I got back, and I asked my friends if they were still doing hydrocodones because I was just burnt out. I was just so burnt out on everything of any religious activity and all. And they were like, "No, we're not doing hydrocodones anymore. We're doing Oxycontin." And I was like, "Oh, what's that?" And they're like, "Well, it's kind of like hydrocodones." And I was like, "Okay." And again, just jumped back in with the same group of friends.
Yeah.
Same group of friends lasted from 2002 to 2012. That 10-year stretch was pretty much consistent of the main nucleus of the five of us, and then socially partying and going out with different little cliques. But for that 10-year stretch, it was pretty much just us getting high and just doing nothing. We'd work and then we'd just get high together. And we just liked getting high and hanging out and being dumb, staying
Drugs
up, and then go to
control
work.
the drugs control some of those buddies that you were partying with a little more than you.
I don't know, man. I think that they always, I think, I remember when we were drinking and be partying, they were like, oh shit, Jaron's throwing up. We should probably slow down. Like I was always, always the first person, either like I'm the first person on the floor, I'm going to do the most. And they kind of gauge that of like, okay, well, if he's doing that, we'll wait to see what happens with him type thing. Maybe that's how I kind of remember it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but I think that of the five of us, counting myself, one of them had a really good job, still has a good job, and he's got to kind of split off with family, and that kind of started taking over and eventually separated. Another one was moving around. He started moving. Another guy joined the Air Force, and then it was just kind of me and one of the other buddies of mine. Like I've known him since I was really, really young, since I was like 3 years old. And that's who we started. That's who I started committing crimes with. You know, that's who I started doing kick doors with. That was in 2000 and the end of 2011 and 2012 when crime had to be turned to because there was no more finances. And then it kind of just, went there. And then after prison, rehabs. And then, and then I was able to get, I'm in a very good industry of career wise. So since 2020, I've maintained pretty decent employment, and I've been pretty blessed with the amount of money that I have available to me, as long as I was able to maintain work and have a consistent paycheck. And so I didn't really have to ever go back to crime after I did a little bit after I got out of prison in 2014, but really since 2015 on, I've maintained pretty steady employment. From 2015 to 2018, though, I was clean. I did Narcotics Anonymous. So
Okay.
I changed my whole life after treatment in 2015, and did 3.5 years. I was in meetings. I had sponsees. I was speaking at treatment centers, or treatment center. I was doing the whole recovery thing full force, and life was really, really good. And then, get divorced because of my choices, and I chose to just say fuck it and go back to everything. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you did mention that you were shooting it up. So you went
Yeah.
from telling about like high school stuff and, doing MDMA, Molly, all of that. But how did it result to you starting to shoot up?
That was the only way you could do it. So it was either like we don't get high and we're sick, or we bust this thing down in water. And I think for a long time, I had people shoot me up. If I was around them, then they were going to shoot me up. Or there was this thing called cheese, which is like Tylenol PM or whatever mixed in with heroin, and you chop that up. It was a big thing back in, I don't really remember, 2011, 2010, I think, somewhere around there. So they were mixing that up so the heroin would turn to powder, so you could snort that. But if the caps weren't available and just straight tar, it was like, okay, what do you just do? Put the literal piece of tar on your nose and let it dissolve, or do you put it in water and squirt it up your nose? Or for me, it was just like, well, I mean, if I'm gonna fucking do it, I'm just gonna do it, man. Just give me the needle and let's just do it. Let's just get high. So for me, it was I don't know, man. I think there's some things in life that really change a person structurally, DNA wise. When you cross lines of life that you didn't think you crossed, and all of a sudden you realize that you are capable of things that you never thought possible. Injecting drugs is one of those lines that a person never comes back from, in a sense. You're jaded to a lot of life after that.
Did the shooting
So,
up kind of coincide around the same time you started doing like, what is it, B&Es, or like what kind of crimes were you committing?
Yeah.
So that was around the
Yeah,
same
that
time.
was probably, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Interesting. And
yeah.
then you don't have to
And
take us
then
into
after prison, it was full force the needle. I mean, it was never really going back.
how much
to
time
that.
did
It was
you
always
do?
after that. Just under 2 years. I think 21 and a half months flat, with a 2-week stint before that. And then briefly a few days and stuff before that, you know. And then, yeah, it did. But the stint time was 21 and a half months.
What was your
So on a 4.
what was your mindset like in prison? Were you thinking to yourself like, I want to change when I get out, or were you kind of in prison, kind of living the same lifestyle using in there, or how'd that go?
No, I went into I told myself when I went into prison I was going to get tatted and work out every day. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't get any tattoos when I was in prison, but I didn't participate in any extracurricular. Like if people had hooch or if people had cigarettes or people had dip, man, when I got into prison, I just wanted to go home. You know, I was like, I saw the parole list and it was like for 4-year sentence. I'm eligible in 4 months. Oh shit. Maybe I can go home in 4 months. I did 2.5, 3 months in county. It's like, oh, by the time I'm in TDC and I go through like the 6-week process, like I'm eligible to see parole. Like maybe I'm gonna fucking go home.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much my experience, man, with when I was in prison in Texas. That's for the most part, everybody I was around had that same mindset. I mean, there was fights that went on, there was politics that went on, but nothing crazy. It was just a bunch of people really from all different kinds of life that were just wanting to go home.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I didn't really participate in any of that. I thought I was going to be good, really. But alcohol has a funny way of allowing you to make choices and to seek things that you might not seek otherwise.
Yeah.
And yeah, so when I got out of prison, I started eventually drinking. And then of course, I'm with people that do drugs. Nobody understands the extent of a person's life, right? And of course, I'm probably not too transparent with people. I'm not like, look, if you put cocaine around me and I'm drunk, we're
Yeah.
doing it and we're not stopping for days. Like I'm not telling them that part. I'm not telling them to lock myself in the closet or anything like that. But it's unfortunate because sometimes when people see something that they've never seen and they're intrigued by a person, it has this fascination slash sexualization to it where you're with a girl and she's like, I'm like, let's do cocaine. And she's like, okay, she has some or whatever. And I'm like, look, we got to go to the pharmacy. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I'm going to shoot it up. And some people would be like, oh no, I'm getting out of the car. Other people is like, they have this weird fascination of like, I've always seen that. I wanted to see what that's like. And I used that, I would sell cocaine and people in the car and I'd be like, you're going to sit right here and you're going to watch me shoot up. Like, you're going to see this happen. Like, you're it just, but yeah, after I was good
Yeah.
at prison, I was good in prison. And then after prison, I just went back to it. It was around me, yeah.
And not that I like that you said this, but I like that you brought up that once you decide to shoot up and you cross that line, there's kind of like no turning back in a sense. What did that? Yeah, like I could only imagine what that did to you mentally, but can you explain to us what that did to you long term, possibly?
For long term, what do you mean?
Well, one, obviously, how you're doing now. Now you're in
Okay.
sobriety. We will get
Yeah.
to that part. But what did that do to you at the time that you knew you were messing up by doing that? You knew you were crossing the line, but what did it do to you? Like, what were you going through mentally at the time, the day in the life of it?
Yeah.
Sometimes a little bit of shame. Obviously, I think when it creates a new type of paranoia. And I'm not going to get into it would be a way longer conversation of my theological spirituality beliefs of what I think opens and does all sorts of weird things of psychosis in that area. That's a whole nother conversation and much more one in length. But I think it does a duality on yourself. It creates this complex of extreme shame and you're a needle junkie. And it also elevates you to this godlike complex that no one can fucking touch you. I'm putting a needle in my arm. I'm walking through the streets like I am doing things that y'all would never fucking think about. And I'm thriving
Yeah.
per se, not thriving, but in this weird fucking perverted way of it, I am. And it creates this real big false persona. At least it did for me. That I am a disgusting piece of shit, and I am also a fucking badass. And that's at least that's a weird way to have to traverse through the world constantly
Yeah.
of trying to maneuver through things. So yeah, I think that's maybe what it did to me psychologically.
Yeah.
But yeah, made me have to hide and then also not hide. And that's a weird thing when you can never be fully the oneself. It's not like I was ever fully a needle junkie and I was never fully a piece of shit. It was like back and forth, and I was be different people around certain people that weren't using, and then when I'd sell drugs and do that, I was this guy, and that's that massive
Mhm.
despair of separation of different people. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I could only imagine.
Yeah.
yeah. It's a different. Yeah, I think too when you cross the line of some things, you just realize like, oh shit, it's not
Yeah.
as bad as you thought,
I
and
know
that's
that
not a.
feeling.
It's yeah, it's it's a horrific thing, but it also at the same time it has this weird thing of like nothing happened. Nothing happened except
Yeah.
I got the highest I've ever been, and I feel the greatest I ever have. I'm not in trouble. I didn't die. I'm not arrested. And all of a sudden, it's like, and I think that's probably part of the problem, too. It's just, I don't, yeah. It's a weird, yeah, it's a weird thing
Were
how
you
it
in
jades you.
like relationships throughout all of this? Like any relationships that were drug fueled or toxic or anything like that? Or were you kind of just remaining single, solo, all that stuff?
I got out of prison and dated a girl for a while, for a year, and she was with me through that. She broke up with me when I went to rehab, and rightfully so. Um, and then stopped drugs after that second stint of rehab. So we're at 2015. So prison, got out at 14. She was with me, watching me. Didn't really know the full extent of it, but it was not good. Um, and then when I started back using, that was one of the final straws that broke my marriage. My marriage was on the rocks. I had committed adultery anyway, not because of drugs or alcohol, because I was a fucking piece of shit person. And that, you stop doing drugs and alcohol and you realize you still make real fucked up choices. And
Yeah.
that then you don't have anything to blame it on. So I had done some really horrible things, and hadn't dealt with, you know, dishonesty in my life. So I was still being a dishonest person, just in different facets. And then I ended up going back to drugs. She said enough. So that marriage ended. Then I started dating a girl. And again, it was the two girls that I dated pre and post marriage in solid addiction they were fascinated with it to a degree until it was no longer fascinating. Right. Yeah. Until they realized like,
Which
oh
is
shit,
not funny.
this dude's got a motherfucking problem.
Yeah.
And I look back at that, especially the second girl, in 2020. It's a fucked up thing. It's a fucked up thing to have a 23-year-old girl with a fucking 30-year-old dude that like she's just in love, and I have this major fucking drug problem, and she's seeing me do things that are just no one should be a part of that. No one should be a part of that. So yeah, I had a little bit of codependency with that. But after 2020, not really any real relationship up until 2023 of actual sustained dating. And when I met a girl in 2023, I was on an ankle monitor, and I think I'd met her and I had probably used a month before, but life was getting better, and I was been sober, just hadn't stopped using, maybe like 6 weeks of free of drugs. And then, yeah, just, that was my ex-fiance. And,
Wow.
yeah. And then of course she ends up breaking up with me and leaves me because I go back to drugs once the ankle monitor goes off, because I'm drinking, and she gave me chance after chance after chance, and eventually a person has to. I don't believe in any unconditional love in humanity, because if you're unconditionally loving somebody else and they're shitting on you, do you really love yourself?
Yeah.
So yeah, so she made the best choice of her life to separate herself from me, and to let me go, and that was the best choice. I'll forever support that. Yeah. So yeah, a little bit of relationships, but not really. I mean, the whole relationship is drugs, right?
Yeah.
It's drugs, Jaron, and then work, and then a person. That's typically how my life was hierarchied in structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well said.
So yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Closer to when you did stop using, what was your day in the life, like a 24-hour period for you?
Like when I was using.
Yeah, towards the end.
Okay, so I got off my ankle monitor in 2023 of January, and from like January, February, March, I pretty much used all the time. Pretty much. And then I stopped in March of 2023, got things together. Things were going back up. And lost a job. Obviously, you can't maintain work. Then it kind of spiraled out for a little bit. I got engaged though in June. So before it spiraled out, I got engaged in June, and I had a great idea that I was going to get high, and I was going to surprise us with drugs. And I did all of the drugs. I drove from Texas to Pennsylvania, and I did 2 8-balls on the way there. I've shared this story before, and I was just gacked out of my mind. And she had already given me chance after chance. She even gave me chance then. And then over the 3-day, 4-day weekend that we had in Ocean City, I fucking got gacked again, and freaked her out. And we were gonna work through it. It was gonna be okay. Again, she was gonna forgive me again. And I ordered and mailed drugs to me, and chose to just get high. And I stayed high for like 19 days. I flew with drugs on a plane underneath in luggage to a new job. I told the job as a leadership position I was on methamphetamine and I just needed a few weeks. And of course they fire me, and I don't go back home, and I stay using. So it's up and down.
Yeah.
The last, from 2023 until I stopped, it was spurts with that first 3 months of 2023, and then 20 days, 30 days, 15 days of just, I don't know how much you guys have used or what your situation is with that, but when the last moments of me using, specifically the last 12 days, I would argue with you that time stopped, and it was months. When I even think about it now, time-wise, of what happened, of the amount of things in the days, it just doesn't make sense of how much was going on, and how of just that 12-day period of just insanity. So that was what it was kind of like. But before that, like, I had stopped. Alcohol was kind of a constant every once in a while. But, you know, in middle of 2024 to the end of 2024, I was good. I'd quit. I was going to the gym, working. And then, you know, you decide to make one dumb choice, show up to a bar, and somebody with a face tattoo recognizes me because I have face tattoos. Not recognizes me, but like, you know, like we're cut from the same cloth. Like, oh shit, you're at a bar with face tattoos. I got a fanny pack. Well, I know what dudes at fanny packs at the bar have, you know? So it's like, and then you're in the bathroom for way too long, bro. I haven't seen you eat for 2 hours. There's no way you're using the restroom that long in there, you know? And so, you know,
Yeah.
you get real quick
Let's
after you've
keep
been in
going.
the life of, like, you know what people are doing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep. I could spot.
Yeah, that's what
anybody
it was.
with
And it was
cocaine.
just, it was insanity.
Yeah.
It was insanity. Using was insanity. Using was screenshotting porn and sending it to my exes saying that they were the porn star on XNXX. It was calling my dad and having another phone there so that I would try to record things. It was FaceTiming him but putting my phone flat up so he couldn't see my face, but I could see what they were doing because I didn't trust anybody. It was disgusting. That's what life was like when I
Yeah.
was using the last bit. It was fucking gross.
What was going through your
Yeah.
head that last around midnight that night that you quit? What was happening there?
I went out to go drink. I had been periodically drinking. And I think I hadn't drank in about 3 weeks when I drank on April 25th. I had 20 bucks in my wallet. I called a friend. I told him, like, hey, I'm going to have some drinks. I only got 20 bucks. I'm calling you because I want to be held accountable. I'm not going to go get high. I'm just going to go have some drinks. You know, sure enough, later I'm at the bar getting a 20 sack, right? And I go home. And I'm going to tell you this right now, man, nothing was going through my head. It was not a, man, I can't believe I think it was always, actually, I can't believe I'm fucking doing it. I'm at my parents' house, okay? I've moved back in with my mom and dad. They're asleep. It's the pre-night, the April 26th of 2022, my little brother got in a car accident that he later died from. He never woke up. So this is April 25th. So it's the night before, 3 years to the day that my brother was in a car accident. And my parents, I have no idea what they're dealing with, what they're going through emotion-wise up in their room, on the other end of the house, fucking coming in drunk and shooting up with a steroid needle and fucking trying to get high with a $20 gram of cocaine and stretch it out for as many shots as I can have. And then I woke up the next day and I had a burning bush experience with what I call the universe.
Okay.
And it made me a deal. It told me that it was the last time that it was ever going to offer it, and that if I abstained from drugs and alcohol, I'd have everything I want in my career. A lot of people, you know, say, well, of course, if you quit drugs and alcohol, of course your life is going to get better. That's just a reflection of life. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's cool. That probably is true, but that's not my story. That's not how it happened. That's not the voice I heard. The voice I heard came to me and literally talked to me. And I say this story, it's the same thing every time. It's 4:26 at 4:26, April 26th at 4:26 p.m. Is when it happened. And I remember being in the room and it said, when does this stop? And it's like, this is the last time that you're going to get this deal. And since then, my life has been insane. I mean, blessing after blessing. Now, there's been some bullshit that I've dealt with because of my own actions. Again, talking about that, you realize that you're still a shitty person in some areas, and you still try to numb things with ways of healing when drugs and alcohol are no longer there. And unfortunately, I have been very diligent in my life with finances since I've gotten clean, but with feelings, sometimes with other people, I have not been near as protective. And so over the last year, I've hurt some people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know, it's I don't really say it's a growing thing. I think that's I just posted a post today. I think that's a fucking bullshit fucking cop-out. I'm struggling with stuff. I'm trying to heal. I think when an adult says they're struggling, really they're saying they want sympathy for a situation that they're unwilling to change from somebody else to say that they understand they can allow them more time to do it. So, yeah, so it's just, you know, I think just trying to fucking trying to stop hurting people to hurt people. And then in relation to that being hurt. But yeah, that's it was just chaos. But that's what happened on the April 26th. The universe told me that if I stopped, my life will have everything I want, social media wise, career wise, and slowly but surely over the last year, in ways of growth that I've never seen for my life, things have happened. So
Awesome.
it was kind of a trade off. Yeah.
And what did you do? Okay, you said you've gone to rehab, but when you decided to finally get sober, did you go to meetings? Did you just cold turkey it? What did you do?
Okay, so I don't, again, this is the schematics of it. I don't claim sobriety. I don't claim that I'm clean, and I don't claim that I'm in recovery. I used to, and I think that that's really, really good when people do that. For me, though, it was just a big mind shift of, I cut a lot of things out, and I realized that if I'm going to be an addict, I'm still an addict. I need to find balance in these addictions. How can I do that? The universe did not let me go back to a job that had 70 hours. I got stuck in a job that had 40 hours, and it was good money. I've always dove into work, always. And that probably has been a crutch, but this didn't allow me to. I also, so I have a job that's 40 hours. I go to the gym, I go to work. It put me on night shifts, so it took out my fucking weekends, which is, you know, a blessing in disguise. And I broke my life down into 5 different things. I tell people this, with the occasional, I don't know, what would you call it? Promiscuous philanthropy.
What happened?
Right? We'll say that, right? With the entertainment of other people. Okay. So every once in a while, I wouldn't just stick to these activities. I would also have a female companion. All right, let's say that. But pretty much I would go to work, I'd go to the gym, I went to Walmart every day. I did grocery shopping every day because Walmart was a safe place for me. I started doing TikTok Live, which is my meetings in church. And I would have dinner on Sundays with my parents. And Saturdays, at nighttime, I'd go get tattooed. Every week for about 5 months, I went and got tattooed, pretty much. And every other weekend, I'd have lunch with my grandparents. So I've done the meetings. I also told you I did Christian missionary work. I have a whole vast 19 years of working things that worked for times, stopping working things, and just a whole different process for me. And so for me, it was just, how do I prioritize some stuff and minimize it and then stick with that? I made my life really, really boring. I cut out a bunch of fucking people. I don't think that you need access to me nor an explanation if I no longer think that you mess up my garden of peace. So
Yeah,
I quit giving. And some people don't like that. Some people want an answer, but I don't owe you one. If I remove you from my life, if I block you, then you're blocked. And I'm sorry, that's just how it is. You just no longer fit in it, and move on with your life. Let me move on with my life. And I'm sorry, but that's just what it is. And the other thing that helped me is I started writing poetry and recording myself, and I would post these videos, and I still watch myself today more than I watch any other content creator on social media, if you want to even call myself a content creator. And I listen to myself and I just smile. And I'm like, holy shit,
Yeah.
that's
pretty
fucking
cool.
me. My cousin he worked for Red Bull, and he told me this idea. He's one of the few people I follow on TikTok. And he told me that Red Bull created a person that they wanted people to identify with and to follow. So I created myself a year ahead of where I was, because I've had a year clean before. So I said, okay, if I've got a year clean, how am I going to talk? what am I going to say to people? How am I going to tell people the story as if I'm a year out of it already? And let's go ahead and start doing that and start sharing the story in the story, but pretending that I'm far from it. And I remember people were like, how long do you have? I have this time. And I'm like, oh, it's like 2 months. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, but like, it is what it is. You don't need a year to tell your story. You just need a day, because somebody doesn't have a day. And that's just what I started doing. But yeah, I think all of it works if people work it. But for me, I talk about this is that, okay, again, this is only for me. I don't mean any disrespect to anybody. But I do think that one of the bare minimums of humanity is to not participate in things that destroy your life and cause addiction. So when I stopped that this time, there's been other times in my life where when I was in Narcotics Anonymous, my clean date was really, really important to me. My clean date is, I wouldn't say it's not important, but it's not vital. What I really like for me is what I've done, not what I stopped doing. So I focus on what I'm trying to do and what I've done the last year, as opposed to what I haven't done. What I haven't done is put a needle in my arm or take a drink of alcohol or put something up my nose or take some sort of a medication in order to alter my mood or change my mind, right? But then I focus on the other stuff that I've done. And that other stuff has held me really accountable. Whether I went to Ireland, I've been to Germany. And the reason I went to those places is because people on social media helped me and funded it for me. They believed in me. They invest in me as a person. And they say that we believe your story is going to be impactful. And I've had incredible donations of people that have helped me financially. It blows my mind. I've gotten sponsored by companies. I have messages, DMs, and those things keep me going.
That's awesome.
And then I do TikTok Live a lot. And that's literally what saves. I would say that when I go into TikTok Live, literally it's my meeting and it saves my life every day, whenever I do it. So yeah, that's kind of for me how I go about it.
Awesome. And
So-
I noticed one of the random things that jumped out at me is you went to get tattoos on a weekly basis. Did you kind of like look
Yeah.
at that as like kind of a version of therapy? Because I know when I get tattooed, it feels like therapy for me. So just curious.
So I've had
Yeah.
2 encounters. I've had 2 encounters with the universe. One was March 27th at 10:43 a.m. in Jacksboro, Texas, and that was the first time. And it told me that when I finish my tattoos, my life will change. Now, Ryan, I can't tell you what that means. I have no idea. But since then, every time I've gotten tattooed, something crazy happens. And I'll just tell you guys this right now. I get tattooed on the 20th and 21st of this month, and also on the 26th and 27th of this month. And just watch what happens. It's the craziest thing. I can't explain it. Crazy. Even this opportunity right now is insane to me. And it's like the universe is opening doors before I even partake in what it's asked me to do. But I've always thought I wanted to be tattooed. I don't necessarily think it's therapy for me. I think it's literally me getting my doctorate. I literally think that it's a requirement for who I'm supposed to be and how I'm supposed to traverse through this world in order to get this done. So it's just grade after grade after grade, or passing final exam. I've never gotten tattoos and thought like, I want to be different. I've always gotten tattoos and just thought like, I'm finally becoming who I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
Yeah.
how I look at it. And it's crazy, dude. It's so crazy what happens literally before or after I get tattooed. Within like 5 days, something will happen. It blows my mind. So now I just tell people, just watch what's going to happen, because it's going to be fucking sick. It's crazy. It's like the coolest thing ever.
What kind of tattoos are you getting? What are you getting?
I have my whole back done. So I finished my back this year. I've got pretty much my entire chest is done. What I'm going to finish when I get on the 20th and 21st, I'm finishing the back of my head, redoing that into a much better picture and portrait of a person. And I'm finishing this open spot on my knee. And then on the 26th and 27th, I'm redoing and starting to cover up piece on this whole right arm, and starting that process. Realistically, where I want, other than my left leg, I'm not concerned with my left leg. But other than that, I got about 45 hours left of when my brain and the deal was done and the voices was heard of what would happen. And we'll see what happens when my right arm and everything is finished, of what the universe does.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So that's some people are like, the universe. I've had people comment on podcasts when I've literally shared this story, and they'll comment on the clip and they're like, the universe didn't fucking speak to you. And I'm like, okay, well, okay, cool. Maybe it didn't, but that's how it heard for me. And that's what I believe. And it's fucking working, dude. I don't know why you're trying to hate on it. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no haters gonna hate.
Yeah, that's it.
So no, definitely believe in what you have to believe in and stay clean no matter what it takes. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't go to the room personally. That's not what I did. And Ryan does. It works for some people. I'm not against it myself, but whatever keeps you away from doing what almost killed you, that's my motto. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think
definitely.
the biggest thing for it, of the one, whether it's a religious area or whether you do the rooms and you stick clear of organized religion and the rooms is your religion, and maybe you participate in Sunday morning activities, you know what I mean, without saying what those are. I think the key centerpiece for people that have a well-rounded, healthy love life type afterwards is service.
Yeah.
My service just looks different. How I do my service is way more through social media and sharing my story that way. And that's what I have found that gives me the biggest, because service is it's a dual thing, right? Like, we do service because it helps somebody, and we do service because it fucking helps us. Like,
Yeah.
if I wasn't getting a reward from any of the service, I'd probably try to find, to be honest with you, a different way to get gratification and healing from myself as well. So, like, I do the service and I tell my story because it heals me. And then in that healing of me, it heals other people. And hopefully one day through that, I'm able to generate a life for myself and my family through that process of somehow that I never thought would be possible. If that third option never happens, I don't give a fuck. If the second option stops happening, but my life is still being saved, I'm still going to keep doing it. Right? Even if my story isn't impacting any people more, it's really at the end of the day about me. And it just so happens that me talking about it and doing that and being of service to me is helping other people. But I think that's the key thing in it, is service. When I did Narcotics Anonymous, though, I was a fucking asshole. I was a dick, man. I was a prick. I can't even say it enough. Just this egotistical fucking Nazi of a person, of like, this is the way. Don't say you're sober in here. We say we're clean. Don't use God. Use higher power. Just too much.
Yeah.
Just too much. And
Yeah.
there was no grace. There was no empathy, sympathy. There was no mercy. There was no love. It was just, fucking get this or don't. And if you don't, then you're a bitch. And eventually that burned me the fuck out. That burnt me out. I can't live like that. So I go about it a little bit differently. I think a lot of people say I still am an asshole sometimes, but I try to be real, raw, and relatable in it, and live to my fullest today, but not want to be that same person tomorrow, I guess. If that's that's a weird place to be in.
Elaborate more, like, on how you're turning pain into purpose now, like, with social media, and what's the radical movement about? Can you tell us all of what you are doing as a whole?
Yeah, so radical movement is something that I'm still working on. I wanted to do a nonprofit with it. I'm still looking at that route. I have my logos. I haven't actually trademarked anything, but you know what? If someone steals radical movement, they still fucking radical movement. They don't have my logo though, but good for them. Whatever. Then the universe will give me something else. But it's essentially one heartbeat affecting another through your story. It's the belief that you don't have to have light or recovery to help somebody recover. That the power is in it. I think a lot of the times when you hear somebody say, like, I have 10 years clean, time has a way of diluting the difficulty that we were facing at that time. And sometimes the pain is not as intensified or real anymore, or at least it's not as felt as much. So it's really just encouraging people that literally your story is going to be the reason that somebody stays. And if you don't share your story, it's possibly the reason that somebody doesn't.
So well put.
And I've tried to take my life twice. I don't blame people because they didn't share their story or because I didn't hear mine. But at the same time, like, people have to hear yours. People need to know that you're making it 5 days after somebody died. You make it 3 days after you put a needle in your arm. You stopped using drugs, and yet people still left you. You lost a job. Your life didn't fucking get easier. And it might not ever get easier. I don't know why we search for the easiness of life, but I find that radical healing comes from the sharing of the story. And you would be astounded when you do that, of the impact that not only it's going to have on yourself, but people elsewise. It's this belief of radical movement is that pain has this weird way of fucking making us so prideful and separating us into isolation, because it says, Ryan, Rachel, you don't know what I went through. You weren't there. You didn't experience this. You didn't have that happen to you, as opposed to being like, look, you're hurting too, and I'm hurting too. Why don't we just use the pain to help each other as opposed to separate us? Why do I say like, oh, they don't know it, so I'm not going to share it, as opposed to saying like, if life sucks for all of us, but it doesn't always win for all of us, why don't we at least use the sucking to try to help each other? The days of darkness are coming. That's inevitable, but it's not a guarantee that we're always going to win. But dark is guaranteed. So that's what I really talk about in it, is that if the darkness is coming, and I know it's coming, and it might come in different stages and in different ways, but it is going to be there. How do I then use that to help somebody else make it through?
Yeah.
And that my story is paramount to somebody else making it through. Every 40 seconds, somebody ends their life, and that's not the people that attempt and failed. And that's a real statistic. And I think that I don't know the exact statistics, but I don't think that recovery is on the rise. The percentages of people getting clean is still the same as what it was when I was watching Intervention, 5%, 4%, 6% of heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine. And if we're getting all of this new knowledge and we're getting all this increased treatment, yet the numbers aren't increasing, then maybe possibly, just maybe, we're looking at it and going about it a different way. Or maybe, just maybe, there's another way to also incorporate that. And how do we do that? How do we see more people get freedom? And how do we see those numbers dissipate? So that's kind of what radical movement is, and encouraging people to share their story in the middle of it. One heartbeat affecting another, bringing life back into somebody.
Yeah,
So-
I like
Oh, I
what you
love that.
said, like in the beginning when you were explaining it, just like, I've been sober 5 days after somebody died, like those are such good examples of the struggles we still go through, and
Yeah.
what a victory it is, to be able to stay sober in those situations, and we don't get it.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
don't talk about those things, we just talk about the milestones and the 1 year, the 2 years.
Yeah.
But like, no, there's victories every day.
Absolutely. And people need to know. I used it when I was married, man. They have these stupid cliche sayings, ball and chain, happy wife, happy life. What's yours is hers. What's hers is hers. What's y'all's is hers.
Yeah.
Your better half, right? And nobody talks about, there's not a group of guys that I was around that were saying like, hey man, when I was 45 days into marriage, I was staring at other women and I wanted to go talk to them. I was liking, and maybe social media has a whole different atmosphere on it, right? But there's not people being transparent for the sake of healing. Right. And so when you
Right.
whether it's in marriage or whether it's in life, when you don't hear a person tell a story, then you think when you have that issue coming up, that since you've never heard it, but you've heard all sorts of other things, that no one understands it. No one's dealt with it. No one talks about it. I've never heard it. So if no one's telling me about it, then they don't understand. So I'm not going to burden them with my shit. I'll just deal with it on my own. And so I think that's why people really being vulnerable in it is paramount to other people recovering. It's also paramount to you recovering. And fuck what anybody else thinks. It's like, at the end of the day, like I said, I share my story because it gives me relief and it saves my life. And it just so happens that I find that every time when I share my story, somebody responds with, holy shit, I didn't know I thought I was the only one. It's like, okay, like you're not. And so, yeah. So I think that's important.
No, exactly. You want everybody to feel seen, and that's why we do this podcast.
Yeah.
We've shared the stories too on other podcasts, and yes, people need to hear what we've gone through. Because we have to recover out loud. I say that all of the time.
Yeah.
But I do have a question. If somebody who is trying to get sober or sober curious is watching right now, what type of advice would you give to?
I don't know if I'd give it. Maybe if I pitch a question is, how much more do you want to lose? I don't know if I would give. I don't know if I would give the advice. I mean, the advice would say, check out a treatment center, go to a meeting, post a question on social media of, hey, has anybody gotten clean and health and your life is better, right? But maybe more of the question would be, how much more do you want to lose? I kind of want to tiptoe around it because I don't want to be too brash or too blunt or too in people's face, right? But I don't know if as adults we really tiptoe around things. I think when we're ready, and it takes what it takes. And I think sometimes we get ready and then we realize that we don't want that anymore. I don't really believe that I never did anything that I didn't want to do. And for me, when I said that, I finally, for me, had really true freedom. I got high because I wanted to, and I loved it the most out of anything else. I don't necessarily know if that means that I didn't love other things that I also claimed I loved, but I definitely didn't love them as much as I loved getting high or that I loved drugs.
Yeah.
And so it took me losing love, and it took me looking at my father before he finally had to draw a line in the sand, which he never had to draw ever, for his own sake, for me to realize that I didn't want to lose anymore. I literally tell people the question is that if I was a betting machine and people bet on me to lose, I made people rich my whole life. They always won on me. If they bet on me to fail, they capitalized and they became rich. And my dad, who believed in me for my entire life, was broke. And I'm not talking money-wise at times, because I sucked him dry at times, but like, but he never stopped betting.
Yeah.
And I remember I looked at him, I was making avocado toast. It was even after I stopped using. So it was maybe in May of sometime of last year, early June, and I was making avocado toast with him. And I remember just looking at him and I said, I'm not gonna let him lose anymore. He's not gonna lose. He's not losing. And there were some things, like I told you, I went to Ireland and people funded that trip, 95% of it. And it's like, I'm not gonna let them fucking lose either.
Yeah.
600 people believed in me and let me live a dream of mine. I owe it to them. So the question I would just say, if you're sober curious, how much more do you want to lose? Because I promise you, it will happen. I mean, I'm not going to be a dick about it. It's going to take everything from you eventually.
Yeah.
There's no sharing.
Yeah.
And not in my experience. Yeah.
We appreciate
And you
that.
the beautiful thing is that you don't have to fucking lose anymore. Like, I don't know if there's a viewer right now watching. You don't have to lose anymore. The bottom that you have right now is the bottom. It doesn't have to go any deeper. And the bottom that you have right now can be the slab of foundation in which you then build your kingdom back on. It can stop right now. One simple choice. It doesn't take a year to be a person in recovery. It takes one day to be from a fucking needle junkie. That's who I was. I was a piece of shit needle junkie. And the first time I made an active decision to not put the needle in my arm, I became a person in recovery. I became no longer a piece of shit needle junkie. That's it. And all of a sudden I just started living that way. And so you don't have to do it. You don't have to lose anymore.
Awesome. I know when you said, like, you ended up giving one of the most powerful statements we probably heard on this podcast. So for not giving direct advice, just the way you said it was pretty impactful, I think. So that's what people needed to hear, I think. So that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
And so how can people listening right now who want to know more about Jaron, like, how can they reach you on social media, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff? Can you shout out all the places to find you?
Yeah, so my TikTok handle is I think it's still lip singing Jaron Lyle. TikTok won't let me put a blue check mark next to my name, so there's a bunch of fake accounts. Excuse me. I don't DM people. I'm really, really strict in that. I tried it before. It gets out of control. People jump to too many conclusions, and I'm just a year in, right?
Yeah.
And even as a almost 39-year-old man with a good career, and recovery time before, I'm very, very realistic with the expectations of what I'm able to handle. And I'm not an emotional dumping ground. I'm not a counselor.
Yeah.
I'm not a
for
therapist.
Right.
I'm not a life coach. And I'm not a sponsor. I can't be that for people. That's not where I'm at in my life. And I don't really like when people target me and then dump that on me. It's just, I can't carry that weight.
Yeah.
But if you want to follow along, I go live on TikTok. I think it's lip singing Jaron Lyle. It's got like 300-something thousand followers. On Facebook, if you search my name, Jaron Lyle, or on Instagram, both of those accounts are verified with the blue check mark. So you can follow along there and join the family. I fucking hate the word chat. I hate when streamers and people say chat.
I get so annoyed watching that stuff. Yeah.
And I don't like followers. So I call I call them a family. So each person that comes and joins in is a literal family member of mine because they believe in me just like my dad. They've invested in me, their time, their energy, their effort, their belief. People have believed in me and invested in me financially. And I'd say it all the time on live. It's like the best. It's like apples and pie, right? It's like graham crackers and fucking s'mores. Like, it's me doing all the shit, but then also this massive support of people that makes my life possible. Like, I think that every door that's opened is because of a sort of following, but I've also got the following because of me doing the work. But it's this coinciding teamwork partnership that has just been fantastic for me. So as I go, they go, and as they go, I go. That's how I always say it. So yeah, if you want to join the family and follow along, and
I like that.
laugh at me and hear my stories of bullshit shenanigans and theology and psychology and beliefs, yeah, join along.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it, man. It was great talking to you.
Man, it was awesome being a part of
Yeah.
this, man. It's awesome being a part of this. So, nothing but success to
you,
you guys
seriously.
and y'all's life, and congratulations on both y'all's recovery. And doing
Thank you.
Thank you so
and
much.
doing the damn thing.
Yeah, she's got 25 months for Rachel coming up, I think, or just happened. I
Hell
think.
yeah,
Yeah, and then I've got 20
yeah.
months coming up. Yeah,
hell yeah,
we're working on it. So
Yeah.
and I appreciate
Yeah.
what you said. Like having people DM and stuff. It's like we're still fresh in
Oh, yeah.
recovery. We don't have all the knowledge. We don't want to be responsible for somebody
my
else's.
God, yeah.
So but we do what we can. Putting content out there, and I've seen your content, and a lot of people will find it really helpful. So for our listeners
I
out
appreciate
there,
you.
check them out. And great having you on today, man. And we'll have to do a follow-up one of these days, maybe when you're a couple years in.
Dude, I'm so down.
Yeah,
I've been waiting for a follow-up, a double part of like somebody asking me to come back and like getting into, because you scratch the surface level of some stuff.
Yeah,
yes,
but also,
some deeper stuff and just get to know some more and vice versa. So yeah, that would be dope. Yeah, whenever.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys. Y'all have a great weekend coming up.
Rock Bottom with Ryan. No bullshit, just recovery.